And now, from Nashville Public Television's Studio A, celebrating authors, literature, and ideas for more than 3 decades, this is A Word on Words with John Seigenthaler.
Hello, I'm John Seigenthaler. Once again, welcome to A Word on Words. Today, my guest is Paul Samuel Dolman. One summer day on Martha's Vineyard, stuck out his thumb, and the comedy writer, actor Larry David pulled over. That's the inspiration for his book, Hitchhiking with Larry David. Paul will tell you he wrote this book because he loved doing it. He realized while in the middle of it, he'd never been happier or felt such an artistic flow. Can't wait to find out all about it. Paul, it's great to have you back.
It's good to be back.
Good to see you.
Good to come home. Yeah.
Well, it's not Nashville, it's Martha's Vineyard. Nashville is home for you. And the question is, what's a nice guy like you wandering around Martha's Vineyard hitchhiking and being picked up by Larry David, among others?
Among others. Well, it started with, it always starts with a girl, every good story throughout time. Whether
the miracle.
Yes, the miracle, whether if it's Odysseus or me. I had suffered a heartbreak. This soulmate type relationship broke down. It was too difficult, it was too challenging. So I fled for the sanctuary in the peaceful, chilly waters of the Atlantic, on the island of Martha's Vineyard, which has always been a summer place that I've went to heal and learn and grow. And I went there, I fled there, and I ended up at my parents' tiny cabin in the woods, about 1,300 square feet of rollicking insanity and interesting dynamics. And from that, I was there on the island, and I needed to get out. I needed to move, so I would ride my bike for long distances, and I would hitchhike, which used to be very popular in the vineyard, but now with society so afraid of itself, I was one of the lone hitchhikers. And the very first day I went hitchhiking, Larry David himself pulled over, and I got in the car, and he asked me if I was a serial killer.
Yeah, it's a funny line. You open it with a very funny line.
He really said that. He was leaning back, and and I thought, shouldn't you ask me that before I get in the car is what I was thinking.
Right.
But fortunately for Larry, I wasn't, and I did say to him, it's Martha's Vineyard, it's the summer. So even if I was a serial killer, I'm on vacation, I'm not working. And he laughed, and then he said, where are you going? And I said, the far side of the island. He said, all right. And we started this journey, which is a great metaphor for both the summer and life. And we started a conversation. And at least 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes in, he was thinking, and he said, you know, I never ever pick up hitchhikers. And I said, really? Well, why did you pick me up? And he thought some more, and then he said, I just felt like I was supposed to. And that was deep, because as I learned throughout the summer from my own experience and from all these other people that were so generous and wise, whether it's a couple that's married 60 years like you and Dolores in an old car talking about love, or a homeless lady on a porch, or a billionaire Wall Street financier, that if you listen to your heart, listen to your gut, go with it, and stay open, extraordinary things can happen.
You know, you read the title, and you read the introductory chapter, and you think, Hitchhiking with Larry David, this is a story about a vacation and a fellow with his thumb out. In a real sense, though, it's a love story.
Yes, I'm glad you caught that. It's a deep love story. There's the romantic love story with the miracle. This beautiful, beautiful woman from the inside out, and trying to figure out how that works. You know, it's been going on since time began, the dynamic between a man and a woman trying to make it work. There was the love story with my parents who were aging, my mother having the onset of dementia or maybe Alzheimer's disease, and my father at 86 trying to hang on to, you know, the old king. But there's this great love and compassion that I come to embody for them. And then there's the love for life and the mystery. There's the beautiful horse I encountered in a field one day while wandering down a path. There's the stars at night. There's the ocean. There's just this ineffable thing that underlies everything and supports everything and informs everything. And there's sort of a coming to that on bended knee, grateful knee, and in awe of the mystery. So you have those. You're right. It is a love story. It's those three things. Yeah.
Part of what it is also is it's just a fun story
Yeah.
about intersecting with interesting people that flock to Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you can be sitting there and suddenly you're looking eye to eye with Meg Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing you know, you're writing about Meg Ryan and Oprah Winfrey, and the book that Meg Ryan gave to Oprah Winfrey, and suddenly you're drawing an analogy between her gift and Rosa Parks, who took such a courageous stand in Montgomery, Alabama, 50 years, almost 60 years ago now. So it's a story that's fun because it talks about some of these interesting people in a light, at moments, a flip way.
Yes.
It's also, as I said, and as you confirmed, a very meaningful love story. But beyond that, it's a collection of really interesting anecdotes with interesting people. Now, you don't name all of them. You're a little bit, I mean, there is a billionaire. You call Bob
Billionaire Bob?
Billionaire Bob. He's one of the people you intersect. And I take it, though, that the environment into which you move and where you stick out your thumb is really an environment where people come, spend their time, enjoy the environment, enjoy the ocean, enjoy the sun, enjoy the beach, but also enjoy each other. And as you say in there, it is a, maybe I'm paraphrasing here, I guess I am, socially democratic environment where somebody like Billionaire Bob will sit down with you or
Me, yeah.
a hitchhiker
Yeah.
and have a meaningful conversation again and again and again.
An unemployed hitchhiker.
Exactly.
Wandering hitchhiker.
Right.
That was the great thing about the Vineyard. It equalizes democratically, and thank you for your kind words. I feel there is a magic there. There's no street lights, there's no crime. I say in the book, the only crime is the sight of me walking on the nude beach.
Yep.
You know, it's an unguarded, people leave their doors open, the keys in the car, in the ignition. So it's a magical place. And it is the kind of place where you sit down and have a bagel or a cup of coffee, and then Meg Ryan is sitting like where you are, and you start talking about the weather, the beaches, the yard sale somebody went to. And with the Meg Ryan thing, she gave a book called The Power of Now to Oprah Winfrey by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah.
And then they ended up, long story short, he wrote A New Earth. They did a simulcast, 100 million people downloaded it all over the world. It raised consciousness. And I realized in life there are no small acts. And I equate it, and you pointed out generously about Rosa Parks didn't give up her seat on a bus in 1955. And that started the civil rights movement. Created on Martin Luther King, it created I Have a Dream. It had you get your head knocked in a march. You know, I remember that. And
I remember it.
You got probably a scar from it. But it's small acts of courage, like you marching, Rosa saying no, people being arrested, or small acts of love, one woman handing another woman a book, picking up a stranger who's got their thumb out. Somebody who read the book recently told me they were touched by the book, so they're giving of themselves more. And they were in East Nashville, and there was an old woman there, I guess, who's homeless, and they bought her dinner. And then at the end, they came up to say hello or whatnot, and then she said to them, "Can a traveler get a ride? Can a traveler get a ride?" And it makes me emotional to think about it, because I think, isn't that all of us? You know? And I think we're here to lift each other up and give each other a ride. And that's what the book is about too. And I hope to, by doing this, inspire others to open their hearts, to stick out their thumb, to be authentically and genuine in who they are and interested in other people, like you are.
It's not just, it seems to me, it's not just a book about celebrities or power brokers, although
No.
although you will find Wall Street Mike and
Yes.
Hollywood,
The Hollywood Birdman.
the Hollywood Birdman, but you also find Skip Gates, Henry Louis Gates.
Yep.
You also find my old friend Carl Rowan. I didn't expect to bump into Carl.
In that adventure.
You didn't hitchhike with him.
No, but there's a story that ties into that.
Lovely story.
Another civil rights icon.
Absolutely.
And I ran into Henry Louis Gates for people who are saying, where do I know that name? He was the Harvard professor who was arrested in his own house and the police. And when I met him, he honestly is about this tall.
I know.
You know, you could mistake him for Tom Thumb. And we started talking on a bench, eating ice cream cones, and then I realized who he was. And when we were talking, I started to laugh a little bit, and he was like, what? And I said, oh, no disrespect. But the idea of 4 big policemen and you being threatening to me, I'm just finding it hysterical. And he said, it is a bit absurd, isn't it? And then he said, why don't you come next week? I'm having this conference on racism. And of course, I had a million magical occurrences happen for me to end up inside that building. And I had breakfast one day by accident with Louis Gossett Jr., who started a foundation called Racism. I didn't know who he was for most of it.
Is that a fact?
I was sitting there in my ignorance again. He had a giant ring on. It said World Champions, and he's really fit. And I thought it was an athlete. And then someone came over and said, oh, I hate to interrupt, but your acting inspires me. And I said, have you done a little acting? And he thought, he was very generous. And he said, well, actually, I won the Academy Award. And as soon as he said that, it clicked because I'm a movie buff.
Sure.
And I started to shrink down to the size of Henry Gates.
Well, again and again, it's one anecdote after another, one encounter after another. Wall Street Mike has a lot to say.
He kept picking me up in that red Mercedes. He'd been downsized, but he made all this money on Wall Street, but he wasn't happy. But now he's trying to find peace, and literally got to the point when the red car saw me, I didn't have to put my hand up. He pulled over. It was like chauffeur. By the end of the summer, I felt like I should be chipping in for gas.
Well, you tell him that.
And he said, no, I'm fine. And he would say, you're still here, because I kept extending my stay. And there are a lot of famous and rich, I call them famous life forms. But what I came to understand, and which I came to understand, is that these people are just like us. And in fact, it's harder from a position of celebrity and fame, as the Hollywood Birdman generously shares with me on his beach, to find happiness outside of yourself, through celebrity, through the role you play in society, that it can only come from the inside out. This is one of the noble truths of all great teachings. And to see it embodied, to have a billionaire tell you that, or a famous Hollywood power broker, it carries some weight. They've been up that mountain, and they're telling you, don't climb that mountain. There's nothing up there but a desert. It's empty. But I learned as much, if not more, from people that weren't famous. The encounter with the homeless woman on the porch.
Oh, what a beautiful encounter.
Deepest thing.
She was living out of her car.
She was, and she was angry, and I was bike riding, so I gave, and she wanted no charity.
But you gave her $20 and she took it as a loan.
I said, this is a loan. And I put my hand on her hand, and she said, would you pray with me? And we prayed. And something powerful happened, and I think more to me, but she said it was her, but who can tell in these situations. I ran into her the very next day at the library. It was on a porch at a small store, and she said, what'd you do to me yesterday? I slept last night for the first time, like a baby. And I said, I didn't do anything. She said, you did something. And I said, it wasn't me. And I said, maybe I just reminded you of something, or maybe I just listened to you. Because there are a lot of disenfranchised people out there that just need a little attention and a little love. And I was the lucky one, because when you're on that side of the equation, the other day we brought a bunch of books over to the Minnie Pearl Foundation. A guy named Norm the Giver, character in a new book, donated. We just gave a bunch of books to the chaplain at Fort Campbell for recovering soldiers. But who's the lucky one? I always feel like the giver is the lucky person. Because I'm sure in my life, I know for a fact I've been on the receiving end. And I probably will be again. It's very humbling. Life is humbling. But to have the opportunity to give, once you realize that, it's unparalleled.
Let me just ask you, in terms of writing the book, there are